Good evening.
And
Hello.
if you could call roll, please.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Eggleston,
Here.
Councilman Cobb,
Here.
Councilman Grimm,
Here.
Vice Mayor
Whatever.
The big dummy in the corner, he's here.
Awesome. And Mayor Lowry
I'm here.
and Councilwoman Eggleston Nowakowski. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members present and 1 absent.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right. Tonight's invocation will be by Councilman Ron Cobb.
Dear Heavenly Father, bless us and help us to do the right decision for the community. Watch over our fire and EMS and our deputy sheriffs. Watch over our military men and women and comfort the family of those that have lost their loved ones. Help us get out of this coronavirus and get back to a normal life. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Grimm will provide us with the flag tonight for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Action on the minutes, none. Communications, none. City manager's report. We'll drop down to comments from members of the public. Mr. Bridge, you have anything over there?
I do not.
All right. Thank you, sir. And let's see. Committee reports, none. Resolutions, none. Ordinances, none. Other business to you, Mr. Bridge.
Thank you, members of council, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Just a discussion on the legislation we have coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. Some of these are actually introed and voted on tonight, like the resolutions. Some ordinances we are voting on tonight, and then some more ordinances they are just introduced tonight as well. So the first resolution is Resolution 2020.15R. That is a resolution accepting the 2021, the first official certification from the auditor's office in the county. This is our first step to our 2021 budgetary process. This is what we're supposed to have according to their numbers. So we take these and we plug them into our 2021 appropriations. We develop the budget and then we present it to council. That is a yearly housekeeping one that we do about this time of year every single year. So the ordinance tonight, we have ordinance 2020-30. It is actually introduction only tonight. Just in case some council members or the public are wondering why that is numbered as 2020-30, and we have other ones that are numbered after that that are actually voting on tonight. I assigned that ordinance number back when the non-discrimination came up, and I had to send that to our law director. So council wanted that introduced for tonight. So we had other legislation pieces that had to come after that. So that would explain the numbering difference if it is causing any confusion to any council members. So that non-discrimination one is up for tonight, and that is just the one that deals with the city board and then city employees. That is not citywide. So ordinance 2020-31 and ordinance 2020-32. Those are for our trash big specs. As we all know, we've had 2 bid responses back, one from Waste Management and also one from Rumpke. So council's had the information for the past couple weeks. So that is voted on tonight. So whichever one council decides to go with, one will have to die for lack of motion and one will get passed. However, council wants to move forward with whatever hauler they wish to choose for their citizen base. Ordinance 2020-34. That is also voted on. That's actually just introduced tonight. I think I skipped one, did I? Yes, I did. I'm sorry. So 2020-31 is another supplemental. This one was actually introduced, and let me pull it out here real quick. And I'm still working on a map to give the council with all our finance stuff. It's just a lot of information we're trying to streamline into one cohesive document that's understandable to the layman term. So that is still on the agenda to get out to council. But Colleen, our new finance director, had noticed some things she brought to my attention. So this is ordinance 2020-31. It has a nice box at the bottom of it. I just kind of want to go through these line item by line item so council has an understanding of what these are. So what we found out when Colleen and myself took a look at the budget that Debbie, our former finance director had construed for all of us to look at and operate on, there are some things that was under budgetized. And there, quite frankly, some of these things too. Any point in time of the year, we may have an employee who added a child to their health insurance, or they would happen to get married. So we didn't budget for that at the beginning of the year because we didn't know. And then, so anytime you see any kind of increase in insurance, it's more than likely someone had added someone to their plan. In this particular case, though, it was just strictly under budgeted for the year. So we have to actually put some more money in to cover the health insurance. The only one that is new is the very first one, and it's $15,000 for new employee health insurance, and that is for Ms. Harris. Debbie did not take our insurance. Ms. Harris will be taking some of our insurance for her and her spouse. So we did not account for that because our former finance director did not take the insurance at all. So we have another charge on there for the reconciliation. That's the $10,000. That's the additional funds that we had to hire two private vendors to come in and help out, get the books caught up for our audit. So that would be paying for bank reconciliation September through, I do believe it was the end of the year for 2019. And then also some of Colleen's charges to come in and get the system set up for the back end work that needed to be done. So we had two separate charges of that. We paid a vendor to do the actual bank recs. And we also paid a second vendor to come in and get our system cleaned up on the inside from where we input those numbers in into the office of the finance director. The $40,000 increase for the police levy fund. Prior to this taking place, our general fund ate all the fees for our income tax collections. But since that, the police fund gets receipted 0.5% of that. 1.5%, the auditor is requiring us to actually take the fees for this collection out of the individual fund it's getting receipted to. So that is something that we were not aware that we were supposed to do. But moving forward, we'll have to account for the income tax charges out of the police fund. And that's what we see for the $40,000. So it's a wash overall for the city, because if we're taking the 40 and putting into the cops, that means we're going to put 40 less out from the general fund. So it's not like we're paying 40 on top of everything. It's just we're splitting those charges out to the appropriate funds to where the money gets received. Any questions on those funds before I go on to the water fund?
Council, any questions?
So the 40,000 is just bookkeeping.
Yes, it's for the fees they charge to collect. Normally we take it all out of the general fund, but since the police levy fund does receipt some of that money, we need to start charging that fund for those fees.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, I want to reiterate, it's not an additional charge. We're just moving it from one account, like the general fund would pay it before. So if we're increasing the appropriations in the police fund to pay that 40, the appropriations would be decreased in the general fund because another department is paying for that. Does that make sense?
Will that affect our ability to provide police protection?
Down the road, we may have to look at some things. I don't think in any immediate future, but it's definitely something we'll have to definitely budget for next year and the years after and see where we get with it. Because if the case may be, is we can always supplement the police fund from the general fund, and that's totally acceptable. So yeah, if we need another cop, we'll just pay for it out of the general fund. But as the income tax collection goes up, that just further puts a pad on that particular fund. Am I good to go forward to the water funds?
I believe so. Any other questions, council? All right, to you, sir.
Awesome. So the water fund, we underestimated 2020 this year for the utility billing. The water fund is actually covering the cost for the water and wastewater fund this year. The wastewater fund is too low, so we're just going to have the water fund cover it. We'll see how we're going to fix that in next year's appropriations, but the supplies for all that kind of stuff, it was underestimated in the 2020 appropriations. We should have increased it because of the increased billing that we did. And the outsourced billing didn't cost us all that much. We just underestimated how much it was cost at the beginning of the year. But again, it's $10,000 for both It's 10,000 total for both departments. The water fund will be covering it this year just because the wastewater fund is really, really thin. The debt payment, this is where it gets interesting. The debt payment for the meter project, the $14,964, was not budgeted at all. Even though years past we had paid that, it was not for some reason accounted for in our 2020 appropriations. And that is also the same for the $108,624. Our former finance director did not make a second payment for our wastewater plant that we, I think it was how many years ago that they expanded that and built a new one. But unfortunately, that was not paid at the end of last year. So last year, when we saw the water fund have a healthy balance, we now know why we had an extra $108,000 into it. It's an unfortunate sequence of events with how these allocations in the water fund went, because it's a pretty standard repayment term that we do twice a year. For some reason, it was not appropriated and paid for out of those funds. So it's unfortunate, but we'll definitely have to make that payment up. So we actually have to make 3 payments this year. We have to make one that was past due and the 2 that are due this year. So that is also the same for one of the water tower payments. So if you see down that last water line, 57,550 repayment of water tower, that's payment 1 and 2. That is the general fund loan that we gave to the water department. And every year it's supposed to pay back 28,000 and some change. So that transfer was budgeted. This one was budgeted, but the actual transfer never took place in 2019. So we have to double up on that this year to be compliant with the legislation that we passed and also compliant with the state auditors. So our water fund had some misappropriations due to the lack of experience within our finance department there for a couple years. But definitely noted that moving forward, now that we have a finance director that has the history of New Carlisle, that understands our software systems, this definitely will not be happening again. This is something that at the end of the day, council, we all know this is my responsibility. We just, and I hate to say the word assume, but when you have something go off without a hitch for 7 years, you don't expect it to deviate from that. So at the end of the day, I will take full responsibility for these payments not being paid, but we are taking steps to correct those. Once they are appropriated in the budget, we just assume they go off without a hitch. And 99.9% of the times they do. This is just the 1% of the time it did not. I am thankful that we have enough funds to cover this mishap in the water fund. But it could have been worse if those funds were a lot less than what we thought. So we'll have to see how the year closes. But we have to make these payments. That is a definite. So any questions on any of the water fund stuff?
Council, any questions for Mr. Bridge? Doesn't look like it, sir. It's an unfortunate situation, and we know kind of the background on the history there and what we've learned in the past few months. So let's hopefully, like you said, we can just move forward on a positive note and get them taken care of.
Sure, absolutely. So the sewer fund had similar instances. This one's a lot less number. $536.08 was not appropriated for the debt payment that we have for the meter project. So it looks like the meter project in the finance department in 2019 was non-existent, because the payment for the meter project portion out of the water department, and then we have a little bit of a payment out of the sewer fund that we need to appropriate. Cemetery fund increase estimated employee health insurance. This just goes back to either someone had added a family member. I think in this particular case, we just under budgeted from the beginning. So we probably should have put more in there when we were doing our budget development in 2019. So we do need to make amends with that to get that up to speed as well.
All right. Council, any questions for Mr. Bridge on any of those topics?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Cobb.
All right. If I can, I'd like to know why on the trash bid, why waste management,
Or the legislation.
Do what?
You have to do the trash bid or the legislation?
trash bid.
No, like this legislation, I just got over like a different legislation.
Well, I just got some questions here over the trash.
But not, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I mean, I got paper scattered all over this table. I've been going through this for 4 days.
Well, Mr. Cobb, I do believe our law director, and I could be wrong about this, so I want every council member to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you're supposed to even influence the vote when it comes to the trash bid on top of not voting at all.
I have the right to ask questions.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there.
I know I can't vote,
Okay.
but I do have the right to ask questions. You can contact the law director on that.
Go ahead,
On
Mr. Cobb.
On waste management, I have several things here. Waste management, they went to $19 or something if we extended the contract. Why did they drop it down to the 17 or 1451? That, I'd like to know that answer.
I can't answer these questions for you. I have no idea. That's the pricing they submitted. This has been in front of council now this would be the 3rd meeting. So I was assuming that all this would be kind of aired out by now because I don't have time to turn around and get any more questions to get answered in time for this to be voted on tonight. So I don't know the pricing they came in. I'm assuming it is to be competitive.
What I'm saying is right here, we didn't get the paperwork so we could go through it until last week. We went off what? Yes.
I think you had the paperwork, or we introduced it on I don't know. You've had it now. This is the 3rd meeting, so it's at least been 3 weeks that these ordinances have been introduced. Because we opened everything up on the 27th was a bid opening. That day we had a special meeting. You guys got copies of all the packets that evening. We had our next meeting on the 31st. You guys had given me more questions, and I got those answered for you with the anticipation of voting on tonight. But I'm almost positive that all that information's been out to you guys since August 27th.
No, sir. But anyhow,
Any council members want to back me up on that? Do you guys know when I sent you that stuff? Because it was relatively soon after the bid opening. So that was
Well, I mean,
quality of the scan.
yeah, I mean, we've had it for a good while. I mean, long enough that we could have at least called you with the question prior to tonight, for sure.
well, these are things that we've got to look at.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, certain people on the council have a history of doing this, whereas we sit on things for 3 or 4 weeks. We have all the questions answered, and when it comes to vote, seems like there's more questions and it just delays. I don't know if we have, and respectfully speaking to everyone, I don't know if we have time to delay the vote because this contract ends December 1. So if we delay it to the 21st, then that's another 2 weeks and then 15 days on top of that for it to become effective. And that'll put it close to the mid-October range.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason why to delay it. I mean, we've had the info. I mean, I haven't gotten any calls from anybody that had any other questions that needed answered prior to. Ms. Eggleston?
I'm showing we've had it since the 27th.
That's 2 weeks.
Good amount of time.
I didn't get where I could get downloaded until last week.
Well, Mr. Cobb, all due respect, but you can't vote anyway. And I
Have the right to ask questions, Mr. City Manager.
Well, I understand that, but I think, I'm not trying to cause anything, but I think that when Jake gave that legal opinion, that he even said that you can't vote nor influence the decision on that vote. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware of what the stipulations are, because you have a family member who works for Rumpke. That's it.
I'm not trying to stipulate nothing anywhere. I got questions on these contracts. And I have that right to ask that question.
I'm not saying you don't have a right to ask a question. What I'm just saying is I don't have time to get an answer back to you before council votes on it tonight.
Well, I'll
Right.
make a motion that we postpone the bidding, table it until Monday night and call a special meeting.
I don't know. There's no need for that. We've had the information long enough. If you didn't get
Oh.
if you didn't get the information downloaded I mean, you had it. If you couldn't get it downloaded, you should have called me or Mr. Bridge, and we could have helped you have gotten it downloaded so you could view it.
I think I actually printed out a copy and did I not? It's a moot point. It is what it is.
Right. So, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, we're not going to be able to get that answer tonight. So, I mean, there's really nothing more to be said about it.
And you all rip off and go do what you want to do anyway.
I'm going to pull that. I'm going to ask for 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to look at something real quick. I'll have to look. I'll have to find it later what I was looking for. But anyway, sorry.
All right.
I would
Does anybody
ask,
else-
I would ask for some clarification on his question. What do you mean being dropped from 17 to 14, Ron?
Do what?
What do you mean, why is it being dropped from 17 to 14?
Well, they went, when they extended the bid, they went for us to extend our bid with them, was at 19 something. When they bid, it went down to 14. There was a $5 difference.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at waste management with the handwritten numbers in it. And low volume is 1461, standard is 1770. I don't see what the issue is. That's perhaps the 19 was an error.
You know, I'm with Randy. I would just be cautious on what's being said right now. I mean, that's dangerous ground, I think, that is being walked on right now.
There's no dangerous ground there. I have the right as a council member to ask questions.
You're right, but you're also, the way you're going about it, it makes like you're painting a picture in a negative light on a company that competes against your son.
No, sir. What I am painting out here, they both got good and bad faults. They're both, you know, they're close. But all I want to know is questions why Waste Management's landfill is about to be full. This is something you all got to look at too and find out. If they move the landfill, is that going to be an extra charge to us?
I don't know where you. I mean, unless I know something in the bid specs, I'd never got anything about it being full.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you're getting that information from.
I called people.
Not putting a good light in the neutrality of what you should be doing right now. Sir, I have the utmost respect for you, but you're putting the city in danger.
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if they do have to move the landfill, if there are more charges, they're locked into this by contract.
I would assume so, yes. I mean, it is
Don't they both use the same landfill anyway? Doesn't Rumpke charge Waste Management to use their landfill? I mean, they all go to the.
well, here's the thing. In my opinion, it's a moot point anyway. Just like Mr. Grimm said, they're locked into a price if we sign this contract. You know, we didn't ask for any information on landfills or where their capacities are. Again, I think it's extremely dangerous to start throwing out those accusations.
They're not
So
accusations.
I'm going to say we need to move forward with anybody else that has any other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions on this topic? All right. Mr. Bridge, moving on. Do you have anything else for this meeting?
Let me see where I'm at here. Ordinance 20, 32, and 33 are the trash bids. I misspoke earlier. And then the 2031 is the supplementals we just went over with the general fund and the water department. And there's one more, the 2034. And this is actually good news. So we have got receipted, as we all know, CARES Act funding, and I am nearly about done going through and finding out what we're going to get reimbursed. But we actually got this deposited in 2 stages. Our first one was $30,607. And we just got a new one on September 2nd. The second half of that is another $15,303. So right now we have to increase our appropriations $45,910. And those are for reimbursements of things that we've had to do to help fight COVID. So we have, I think, until the end of the year now to spend this. If not, it's October 15th, but I'm almost positive they extended the deadline. Anything that we don't receipt out of this, we have to go ahead and send back to the county. So if we spend 20,000 of it, great. We get to keep that 20,000 because we bought iPads for staff to do remote meetings. We bought some personal protection equipment. We're paying to get the city building sanitized every month. That we can claim. So anything at the end of that, we have to send back. So I'm looking for ways to spend a lot of it. We'd be fools not to use it if we can. But I just want council to know that we'll probably see by the end of the year another ordinance like that actually decreasing the appropriations for the difference between the 45 and what we actually spent. So we got to send that back. So again, this is just introduced tonight, but we do need to account for those increased appropriations we got from the federal government for the CARES Act funding. So that one is good news.
All right. And anything else from your end, Mr. Bridge?
I think I'm good.
All right, council, any other topics tonight before we move on? All right, we'll need a motion to adjourn if that's
So
where we're
moved.
at.
Second,
First
I got
from Mr. Grimm and then Miss Eggleston.
First from Grimm, second. So we'll just go down. Councilman Cobb,
No,
you don't want to adjourn?
nope.
Okay. Vice Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Mayor Lowry,
Yes.
Councilman Grimm,
Yes.
Councilwoman Eggleston.
yes.
So on a vote of 4-1,
And then we'll
Sure.
have to do it in regular session. We just cleared out without excusing Miss Nowakowski.
okay.
Yeah, Peg, maybe you can go across the street, make sure she's okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then if she doesn't make it, if she doesn't make it to the next meeting, we'll just excuse her for both meetings at the end of the next one.
And I forgot to mention something too, so remind me, I want to give a big